My sister convinced me the name I picked for my baby was terrible, then she stole it. I was 6 months pregnant when I announced the name at a family dinner, Eleanor, after our grandmother who practically raised me during my parents' divorce. She was the only person who ever saw me as my own person, and not a lesser version of my older sister Kelsey. She died when I was 12 and I've missed her every day. I thought everyone would love that I was naming my daughter after her. Kelsey wrinkled her nose immediately. She said, "Eleanor? That's so old-fashioned. You're going to call her Ellie? That's a dog's name." Mom tilted her head and said, "It's a little dated, honey. Are you sure about this?" I said I was sure. I said Grandma meant everything to me and I wanted my daughter to carry her name. Kelsey shook her head. She said, "Grandma meant a lot to all of us, but that doesn't mean you should saddle your kid with an old lady name. Kids are going to make fun of her. Do you really want her getting teased because you were feeling sentimental?" Over the next few weeks, the comments kept coming at every family gathering. Kelsey sent me articles about names that get children bullied in school. She texted me lists of modern alternatives that were just as meaningful but actually cute. She brought it up in front of my aunts and cousins at a baby shower, asking if anyone else thought Eleanor sounded ancient. Most of them nodded along with her. One aunt said it reminded her of a nursing home. Everyone laughed except me. At my cousin's graduation party, Kelsey told a group of relatives that I was determined to ruin my daughter's social life before she's even born. Everyone chuckled like it was a harmless joke. Mom pulled me aside at Easter brunch and said she loved Grandma too, but Grandma wouldn't have wanted her great-granddaughter to suffer with a name like that. She said kids were cruel and I should think about what I was doing to my daughter. She said I was being selfish by putting my feelings about Grandma above my child's future. Dad just sighed whenever it came up and said he wanted everyone to stop fighting. He said maybe I should just pick something else so we could move on. My husband said it was my choice, but he was exhausted by all the tension at every family event. I was exhausted too. I was tired of defending myself. I was tired of dreading every dinner and holiday. So I changed the name to Olivia. The relief in the room was immediate. Mom hugged me and said she was so glad I came to my senses. Kelsey smiled and said Olivia was beautiful, and my daughter would thank me someday. Dad said he was proud of me for being the bigger person. Everyone acted like I had done something generous instead of something that broke my heart. My daughter was born in September, Olivia Grace. She was perfect, and I loved her more than I knew was possible. But every time I said her name, something in my chest ached. I told myself to let it go. 3 years later, Kelsey announced she was pregnant at Christmas dinner. Everyone asked about names. Kelsey put her hand on her stomach and smiled. She said, "We've decided on Eleanor." I felt like someone had poured ice water down my spine. Mom gasped and clutched Kelsey's arm. She said, "After Grandma? Oh honey, that's absolutely beautiful." Dad's eyes got watery, and he said Grandma would have been so proud. My aunt said it was the perfect tribute. So classic and elegant and timeless. I sat frozen while everyone gushed and hugged Kelsey. Finally, I said, "I wanted to name Olivia that. You all told me it was a terrible name." Kelsey rolled her eyes. She said, "Why do you always have to make everything about you? This is my moment." I looked at my mother. I said, "You told me kids would bully her. You said Grandma wouldn't want her great-granddaughter stuck with that name." Mom shifted in her seat. She said, "Kelsey's situation is different. Her husband has a real career. They just bought a house in a good school district. This baby is going to have a different kind of life." I said, "What is that supposed to mean?" Dad cleared his throat. He said, "We just thought that if anyone was going to carry on Mom's name, it should be a child who could really live up to it." The room went silent. Everyone suddenly very interested in their plates. I looked around the table and finally understood what had happened 3 years ago. They never thought the name was bad. They thought I wasn't good enough to use it. They were saving it for Kelsey's baby because they believed her child would matter more than mine. Kelsey shrugged with a little smile. She said, "Grandma would have wanted her name to go to the right family." I said, "I was the one who lived with her. I was holding her hand when she died. You visited twice a year and complained about the smell of her house the whole time." Kelsey's smile didn't waver. She said, "And yet here we are." I looked at my daughter sitting in her high chair, completely unaware that her own family had just announced she wasn't good enough. I picked up my daughter and walked out without saying goodbye.